Okay, welcome back, everybody. Next up, we have Tyson Roberts, who's our head of strategic business development for Amazon Pay. He's brought together a panel of entrepreneurs who have all appeared on the popular TV show Shark Tank, and they are going to share with us their story. Thank you. Please welcome Tyson and his panel to the stage.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. I want to add my welcome to hopefully a bunch more that you've received already today. On behalf of my fellow cube dwellers at Amazon, I want to thank all of you who made the trip out here because it's a real treat to get to look you, our customers, in the face and hear about your challenges and successes and opportunities. And we are going to continue to work hard trying to make sure that this time was well spent for you and the companies you represent. So, to jump right into that, I've got an esteemed panel of fellow entrepreneurs and some investors. I'll start right on my left here is Lisa. She's from Our Riveter. This is a really cool company with a mission to employ military spouses as they get sent around the country following our active servicemen and women to give them meaningful work and create some pretty cool and unique products in the process. To her left is Peter from Nuts and More. Peter created the first high-protein spread in the back of his family's bakery, and it provides a simple, healthy alternative to the shakes and bars that many of us might be pretty sick of. So I love that there's a new option. Caleb is from Power Practical, and they've produced a bunch of innovative products to power and charge electrical devices when you're not near the traditional power sources like a plug-in in the wall. And then all the way on the other end, last but not least, is Abe from Mark Cuban Companies. And so all of these businesses and entrepreneurs have one thing in common, and that's that they went on the very popular Shark Tank show. Why don't we stop for a second? Can you stand up if you have not ever seen an episode of Shark Tank? We weren't gonna shame you. Okay, shame. Shame Zulfikar. All right, I know him. Don't worry, he'll be punished. Okay, so Shark Tank, you guys all know it. It's a very popular show. They've all not only gone on, but they survived it. And as you know, they don't all survive it. And they got an investment from one of the lead sharks, really, I think the best, in my opinion, Mark Cuban. So Abe works across that portfolio and really is here to bring kind of an investor's perspective to the discussion. So I'm going to kick it off with a couple questions, but while we're talking, your curiosity hopefully will start, and you'll also muster some courage, and you can walk up to these mics at the end and ask questions you've always wanted to ask of Shark Tank companies. All right? I'm going to start with you, Lisa, because you're right next to me. I'm sorry. How'd you know when it was time to take on outside investment?
Yeah, so Our Riveter was started by two military spouses who found themselves in a really remote location of Georgia. Both of them were really overeducated. One had her MBA, one had her master's in architecture. And they found themselves unemployed because there was not a lot of really meaningful jobs in a small remote military base. So they decided to create an opportunity for themselves. And they started in an attic. So Our Riveter was started in an attic, and they made one bag, sold one bag to make two to make four, and that's kind of how Our Riveter grew. And when they got to the point where they had to move downstairs to the garage, and they couldn't keep up with the demand anymore, in 2014 they decided it was time to kind of launch a Kickstarter campaign and use that money not only for facilities, but also just more product. So kind of when they were at a standstill in terms of production, demand was high, couldn't keep up, that was time to kind of ask for help.
So you'd say in your case it was pretty obvious.
It was very obvious.
Couldn't keep up with demand.
Yeah.
That's a great signal.
Yeah.
I want to say your story resonates a lot with me. I was a military brat, and I was in really remote places like Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska and
Yes.
Minot in North Dakota. So, and my mom just took odd jobs until we landed somewhere long enough that she could, kick off a career. So I think it's awesome work that you're doing for our military family.
Yeah.
That's great. How about the rest of you? You've all made the choice to take on investment. Peter, do you have any kind of comment on when you knew it was time?
Yeah, so I started the company about 7 years ago in the back of my parents' bakery shop. It was a total happy accident. I was training at the time. I had a trainer who was completely psycho about like macros and nutrients and counting calories and all that crazy stuff. But I was doing it, I was following it. And just kind of by happenstance, I started adding some protein to my peanut butter. I love peanut butter. It tasted really good. And before you know it, some of my friends they kept asking me for it. They're like, this is really good stuff. So shortly thereafter, got it into a couple of local shops, and it started to sell. I did the same across the country with some friends in LA, and the same thing was happening. So I'm like, I think I got something here. This is kind of cool. So took to the bakery after work on the weekends, and it got to the point where I just had no life. So I knew I needed to take on some investment. So I was literally on my laptop on a Friday night, and I saw the show. It was like season 2, and I didn't really know what it was. I'm like, this is really awesome. This is that guy Mark Cuban. Oh, I've heard about him before. So I just shot an email, and I was at the point we were busting at the seams. So that's when I needed to get some investment. And when I got the voicemail from the producer, it was like, wow, dream come true.
So for those of you taking notes, we've got when you have more orders than you can fulfill, or when your life ends, and absolutely no time for yourself, that might be a good sign too.
And I should have clarified too that same thing also happened to us after the Kickstarter campaign, which is where Shark Tank came in. So we had a round 2 of that same scenario.
Yeah, because they give you money with this expectation that you're going to send them some product.
Right.
Something like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, at Power Practical, we've leveraged multiple funding vehicles. And like Lisa mentioned, crowdfunding is a really interesting funding vehicle that didn't exist 10 years ago. It's a non-dilutive vehicle where you can test demand and bring products to life. And we've actually brought 8 products to life via crowdfunding. So it's been a tremendous funding vehicle that provides a ton of upside relative to understanding who your customer is, being able to touch them, being able to get feedback about the product. As far as equity investments go, in total transparency, I don't know if we were ready to take on money because I've always been trained in the world of entrepreneurism, right? Where raising money is this like massive goal, and it's kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel where if you're able to do that, you've made it. Like high five, go buy a boat, and retire, right? And that's not actually the case. It's just the opposite of that.
As a recovering venture-backed CEO, who raised $16 million, it's the light at the front of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And it might be an oncoming train.
It might be an oncoming train.
Yeah.
And so
Aware.
my 2 cents is if you're going to raise money, first and foremost, I would look at non-dilutive channels if you can, like crowdfunding. And then if you are going to go down the venture route, have very clear expectations of how you're going to deploy those funds and put a lot of thought behind it. Because when you take money, it's time to hit the gas pedal to the floor.
Yep.
It's not time to like get your plans in place.
You're only leveraging those investment conversations, in my experience, is preparation. Meaning, the further along your business is, and the more of a sure bet it is.
Yep.
And it's not that different than banking, right? The banks will give you loans when you don't need the money, right? And in the case of investors, they will give you money when you really, really need it, but it's at a much higher cost. He mentioned non-dilutive. For those of you that aren't in investment purview, that just means you have to give up equity or percentage ownership in your company in exchange for the money. Crowdfunding, you don't do that. Other forms of investment, you do.
Yep.
Very good insight. I appreciate that. Abe, if you have anything to add, or we can jump on to the next question.
I think it's important just to lay the stage on how Shark Tank works for everyone who's not familiar with behind the scenes. So the sharks film for 2 weeks. They're actually filming right now. And the season starts end of September and goes all the way through to end of May. So the sharks have no idea who's coming in. So as you mentioned, the producer called you. The producers, they're a completely different group. They go and scout companies, and companies can either apply via email or trade shows, or they even have, they have different, they go to every major city, almost like American Idol, and they try to find new talent. So once that happened, they find the best, and they just bring them to the show. And they prepare them, they have that 30-second pitch that's very well put together. That's what the producers do. And the sharks are sitting, waiting for the next company to come through the doors. They have no idea who that company is, what they do, nothing. And after that 1-minute pitch, everything is non-scripted. There's nothing scripted at all. So it's just pretty much free form. It's a true pitch. They get really hammered down by the sharks. I mean, this is not reality TV that's scripted. And those things can go up to 2 hours sometimes. You see it on the show, every pitch is like 5 minutes, but it goes from an hour to 2 hours. And once the handshake happens on the show, it's not over. So that's where each shark has their own due diligence team. And it takes, in some cases, 3 months, even more. But the goal is to get the deal closed. And some deals don't close. Maybe the entrepreneur just gave crazy numbers that they could not validate through financials.
An entrepreneur exaggerating?
Yeah, but sometimes it's good if you can always, lots of things could be red flags. And then once they close, that's where each shark has a team that comes in and tries to help the company, especially be ready for the show when it airs. So let's say a new company from this week, because Mark's filming with the rest of the sharks, a company airing end of September, we would have enough time to just make sure they're on the right, let's say, e-commerce platform, and now make sure they have the right Amazon presence is very important. And they have the right inventory pricing strategy, so they can capitalize on the platform. Because companies could make almost up to $1 million within just the first weekend of airing on the show, which is huge. So that's part of the process. And then Shark Tank is great as a platform because we call it the gift that keeps on giving. Because even after the first airing, you have re-airs on ABC, and then you have CNBC re-airs as well. So every time the show airs, you see a spike, right?
Yeah.
And then with CNBC now taking the show globally, you wake up one morning and you're like, sales are coming from, let's say, France, and everybody wants to be your distributor in France. What's going on? Well, CNBC just aired the episode in France, for example. So that's kind of the process of how it works, and an idea of the timeline for a Shark Tank company. And I'll go through some of the details of what other support services we provide beyond the show. So we'll just move on to the next question.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I had a little bit of experience with TV, like infomercials. And one thing I learned I'm a digital marketing guy from way back when it was sort of invented. But I was astounded by 2 things about TV. It's incredibly powerful. We saw the number of orders coming from a single airing on TV. We would spend, the Mongolian hordes working for months to generate that many orders through online advertising. So it's super powerful. And its controls are absolutely stupid. You have almost no ability to target, advertising on television. It's age and gender from a tiny little sample the size of this room or smaller. So it's just really hard to instrument, but what a powerful medium. And I watched all the episodes of the study for this on instant video. So what's nice about this is in the old days of TV, once the airing went, you'd get what you were going to get and then you were done. And now there's this long tail of people consuming on demand or through any of the other platforms your episode long after it had its major airing. So those are all things that seem like tailwinds for the kind of work you're doing. Moving on, Peter, I was gonna throw one your way. What was the biggest business impact for you guys of taking the Shark Tank investment?
Biggest impact, getting that money.
Yeah, money's good, right?
That investment, like we received $250,000 on the deal, but I don't think that was the biggest impact because we were able to pay that back in like I don't know, a week after the show aired, so that was pretty cool. I think the biggest impact for me, it was just 3 of us when we started, so we literally just took off like a rocket ship. So having the Mark Cuban development team to kind of help us out, their team, there's like 10 guys on their team at that time. They helped us out with everything from finance to marketing, social, sourcing, machinery for manufacturing. I gotta say that was probably the biggest, most impactful thing, and it still is to this day. You guys have been holding my hand since we started this thing.
Well, I know from starting a business that you immediately realize all the things you don't know, right? Like you all of a sudden have to be every department in a company, and you usually are pretty good at one of them and
Exactly.
close to terrible at everything else. So it's nice to have someone that's got some onboard expertise. That's really great. How about you guys? Anything to add to what you felt like was the biggest impact to your business?
Yeah, I think to Abe's point, Shark Tank's a really interesting platform in that it provides instant credibility. People just will randomly, like, funny story, I was getting off a flight and someone from college that I hadn't seen in years was on the same flight, and he started asking me about Shark Tank. And then the plane landed and some random dude got up and he like wanted to talk to me so bad about Shark Tank that he followed me off the plane, asking me questions, and then he realized he forgot his bag. And he had to like turn around and fight all the traffic trying to get off the plane to go get his bag, you know what I mean? So there's that. And then the other thing is what you just mentioned about when you play in the world of startups or launching businesses, there's a whole bucket of don't know. And by partnering with Mark and having access to his team, it brings a bunch of really smart people around the table that kind of help you expose some of those don't knows. And not all venture partners are created equal. We've taken money from other partners, and the level of support doesn't even compare to the level of support that we've gotten through Cuban companies.
Yeah, and I'd echo both of those. I mean, when we were on Shark Tank, we grew 630% in 1 year. And it's just magnified. So all the problems are magnified, all the don't knows are magnified. And that was the beauty of having, the Mark Cuban Company's team, and it still is. We have this great network of people that we can talk to and get advice from, and so we all don't make the same mistakes. So I think aside from growing our team, growing our products, having somebody who knows exactly what they're doing has been really helpful.
So it seems like, for the folks keeping track at home, seeking advice from folks that have been where you haven't been or that have skills different than yours are a good way to augment and insure against failure.
So one example of that is like Auroviter was the first company we actually tried the Amazon Pay button on their website, and this was that was right when we started our conversation with the Amazon Pay team, and we just had the new season, and Auroviter was just about to air, and we said, okay, we have 2 weeks, can we do it? It's like, sure. So we tried the Amazon Pay, and at the time they said, well, we'll make it work for you, but you have to get rid of the PayPal button. Sure, we'll do it, no big deal. And then we did it, and we were just blown away. And we did it right at the time when the episode aired. Auroviter did close to $600,000 within like a 4-day period. And everybody was surprised. 33% of those sales, it was on a Shopify site. So 33% of sales went through the Amazon Pay button, which was unbelievable. And we knew this was something that we just have to push to all the other companies. And every company now always has, as an alternate pay method, an Amazon Pay button. So it's Auroviter that took the lead on that one.
That's not on my paper, guys, I promise.
Well, and I'll add, I'm sure all the Amazonians would love to hear, before we, kind of drop the PayPal button, that was about 15% of our online conversions, and Amazon Pay, right away was right around 33%, so.
That's over double, I think. All right, that's awesome. Not that I'm keeping track, but thank you, Abe and Lisa. So I'm gonna jump, Caleb. So a lot's transpired since your Shark Tank investment even, like the business is growing, you got a bunch of other products. I imagine you've learned a bunch, right?
Yeah.
If you could go back in time, I'm sure that's just around the corner, we're probably working on that somewhere, but what advice would you give your pre-Shark Tank self or early stage, when you were first kicking around the business?
Yeah, so kind of going back to that point of perceptions of what is success. When we launched our company, we did a crowdfunding campaign back in 2012 and raised about 130 grand in 30 days. So we pre-sold 1,000 units. It was a really cool experience. We built them, and then we went and raised money. And the whole premise of raising money, this was before we went on Shark Tank, was to develop products, crowdfund them, and then take them into brick and mortar retail, because that was success, right? That is the name of the game, getting into brick and mortar. So we went down that path. I sold into REI, Cabela's, Sam's Club, Brookstone, Staples, AFES, all of them. And what we learned really quickly was that selling in is easy, and selling through is really hard. It takes a whole different kind of mindset, skill set, different marketing tactics. So if I were to go back in time, I would tell myself to screw retail, brick and mortar, and focus online. For various reasons, easier to control messaging. We do really well at crowdfunding. So what tools do you have access to with crowdfunding? Video, imagery, lots of content, which that doesn't translate on a box, unfortunately. And so kind of realizing if we're leveraging a tool set here, we should leverage a similar tool set in other channels that we can replicate the same. So that's what I would say. And honestly, if we wouldn't have made the transition, I wouldn't be sitting here. The company would have folded a year and a half ago. It was over.
So you narrowly escaped death by retail.
Yeah, it's just the classic, entrepreneur story. The plane is crashing, it's on fire, about to hit the ground. Everyone pulls up as hard as they can in a last-ditch effort, and somehow it doesn't explode.
So here's an interesting story about this, because it was Q4 November 2015. November 2015. We were in a board meeting, and I was looking at their projections because of the way just retail sales were just going down, and they didn't have a channel to push all these new products. So they're doing a great job with Kickstarter, but then the channels were the challenge. And I was looking at the numbers, and based on their current burn, which is kind of their monthly expenses, by July 2016, they're going to have no money in the bank. It was pretty much game over.
It was game over.
And we made a decision at that meeting, board meeting, and that was right after we've had some success with Amazon exclusive with another brand. And we said, okay, let's take a chance. You have nothing to lose. 6 months from now, that's it. Let's take a chance on exclusives and cut all the retail out and focus purely on the exclusive channels. So the next Kickstarter that you'll do, go straight to your website and to Amazon exclusive. And they did that. So remember, like January 2016 sales were $5,000 a month.
$6,000 we did.
Yeah. By March, you're probably around 30.
30.
June, almost 100, right? And then July, they were lucky to be part of Prime Day. I think you did on Prime Day over 250,000, something like. Their biggest month ever was in July, which was projected to be the day they were going to shut down the business. Just because they took a pivot into Amazon, and it was Amazon exclusive that really helped at the time as well. But their whole focus now, they put all their resources on optimizing the Amazon platform. And what's amazing with Amazon is, as you guys grow, there's so many different features and different services and businesses that provide value. And as a brand, we're trying to keep up with you. There's always something new coming up, and everything you do adds value. And I think Power Practical has done a great job in just keeping kind of a good pulse on what's working at Amazon, what are the new things, and we thank you for actually including us in some of your beta programs, and we've seen a great success story. So 2016 became not just their best month in July, but they've also, it was their best year since they started the company.
We doubled in size and doubled that year.
That's awesome.
Death
That's a
to
great story. And
doubling.
sorry. Go ahead.
If you haven't heard of Amazon exclusives, there's a dude sitting right there on the front with a hat on. You should talk to him because they're a phenomenal team. I can't say enough about how much impact they've had on me personally and our business. But like, if you don't know about them, you need to find out. And if you have an opportunity to work with them, I highly recommend it.
Excellent. I know, Peter, you work with them, right?
Yeah, last year and a half. Man, since we started working with the exclusives team, we've tripled our online revenue. So it was like night and day. Great team, and I'm excited to come back here and have some more meetings with you.
Yeah, when we talked, one of the things you shared that I thought really resonated with me was you were initially concerned that your channel partners would not like the idea that you're launching exclusively with Amazon first.
Exactly right, because we're in direct to retail, brick and mortar. I was really afraid of what my customers were going to say. I had a nice relationship with them, and you know, the word on the street is like everybody's afraid of Amazon.
Yeah, and you're not talking about your end customers, you're talking about your distributors.
I'm talking about
partners. Yes.
Exactly.
Like GNC and Vitamin Shop.
Yeah.
You said it, not me. So when I told them, and they're always excited for a new product launch, and when I told them we had this plan to launch our new chocolate maple pretzel, but we were going to do it through Amazon exclusive, I kind of blamed Mark and his. Said I'm part of that.
Yet
group.
another service of the Mark.
I have to do it.
Go.
So they were a little upset. They kind of bitched and moaned, but we went ahead with it and we launched, and it was awesome. So what ended up happening was we started getting a ton of 5-star feedback, 5-star, 4.5, 5-star, and them being upset turned to, they were like trying to break down the door. Like, when can we get this? So it was
And
like,
you saved them from a disaster. You said the prior launch that where you didn't have things tuned right, you get a bunch of stuff shipped out on shelves and find out the formula's not exactly as good as you hoped. And everybody loses money on that deal, right?
yeah, exactly right. So there was there was a little discrepancy in the formula. So like 2 weeks in, we got we got a bunch of feedback like, hey, this is a little off. So we quickly changed gears, sent some new product back out within a month. It was really like short time, and then that's when those 5-star ratings started coming out. And yeah, so everybody was happy. So we did a 1-year exclusive, and then we released that flavor. And now that's the model. We kind of release a new flavor. Amazon helps us build up the buzz, and then that's how we launch.
Well, time flies when you're having fun because I'm seeing that. I think we're out of time, but we were hoping to have some audience questions. I wonder if you guys would be okay if they catch you when you're going to be around the rest of the day. If you guys see these folks, please be nice, and if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. And thank you for your participation. Hopefully you guys got some insights you can take home and implement.
That's it?
I think so. I mean, I
Go
think
on
we
for
have.
hours.
Huh? I know. I'm waiting for the hook. I think. That's it. Yeah, we're done. Thank you guys.